Well, welcome to another short video ahead of the coaching symposium in July with Matt Bradbury Sports. Delighted to say that today we are joined by Dr. Michael Carmont. Michael, firstly, how are you today?
I'm very well, thanks, Chris. How are you?
Yeah, not so bad, thank you. It's quite a kind of chilly morning, really, having to be out there in your coat.
No, it's nice to get some fresh air occasionally away from the rink. You know how it is.
And of course, Matt Bradbury is here as well. Morning, Matt.
Morning, Chris. How are you?
Yeah, it's all good, thank you. So, Mike, you are a consultant trauma and orthopedic surgeon in the West Midlands. So, and you've been working with the Great Britain team in the university games and things like that. So, tell us a bit about your background within ice hockey.
Well, I suppose it'd be fair to say I was first introduced to ice hockey in I think it was the Universiade in 2013, Matt, where we went to Trentino as part of
Trentino,
the
yeah.
competition, and I was really quite impressed with it as as a sport. I really saw good play on the ice, and it was great to see the coaches and the team all working together, and it was a very good fun atmosphere.
Yeah, and so as a general sport trauma surgery focusing on ankle and knee, ice hockey is a sport where there's a lot of load going through those parts, isn't there? Turning and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, I try to describe myself. I'm a consultant trauma and orthopedic surgeon in my day job, and I have an interest in sports and exercise medicine. And naturally, the process of injury is something which interests me. And ice hockey does have its fair share of injuries. And there's a number of things we can do which make it interesting. First of all, you have the role of prevention and things what you can do prior to competing on the ice to try and improve the performance of our players. And we also have the management of the injuries which do occur because it's a collision contact sport. And then we have the aspects of trying to rehabilitate those athletes to get them back to the highest standard of play we can.
I mean, Matt, how often do you see these types of injuries? Because as Michael says there, it is collision. You get players falling on top of one another. It's easy to, twist something too much as you're trying to turn or fall in the wrong way and have this injury that can put you out for a long period.
Well, we see a lot of the injuries in the sport, but like Mike says, looking after yourself is the most important thing. I think that the hardest thing that probably players come across is knowing where to go, how to do these kind of things, the elements of the cost as well, and making sure they're doing it right. It's looking after them from such a young age as well, because obviously the young players growing as they grow, muscles, bones, everything sort of like stretches and changes, and then ultimately I'm assuming it's affecting things like your posture. My son plays cricket, and it's something I've been really keen as he's growing, because he's just shot up like a beanpole, and his feet have grown to like size 11 and a half, which I'm sure is quite a trend in lots of kind of young people growing up. And what happens is the if the feet are out, everything's out. And I've been trying to look after him every couple of months to be able to get himself realigned as he's growing. So that's just a really basic thing that I've sort of like fell upon, really, somebody that I've known for a number of years that looks after him. So I guess it starts from the kind of the base upwards, the young player upwards, right the way through to obviously the pros are being looked after. They've got medical teams and support staff with them, but it's kind of that gap in the middle. As the kids are growing up, and the semi-pros and those players that will never play pro, the recreational players, the female players, that everything is so different. And I'm just hoping that somebody like Mike coming across that I've known for some years will just hopefully again point somebody in the right direction, a bit of signposting and a bit of support, really.
I,
I think
I'm sorry, go on, Michael.
I think Matt's hit the nail on the head there, that a lot of the athletes we see are student athletes, and their bodies are developing potentially from the later stages of adolescence almost to full adulthood, and then development into fully competitive athletes. And the body goes through a phenomenal amount of changes during that time. And as well, we're also teaching them to understand the collision sport, to understand that injuries do occur, and to accept how to manage injuries before they become a significant problem. And it's that awareness is something which we need to try and reinforce. And that's something which is particularly relevant to the coaches to try and recognize these injuries early so they can adapt what they do with the players and the athletes to try and improve their overall performance.
So what do you find are the most common types of injuries that you're seeing? And generally, and obviously it varies person to person, but how long is somebody out for when they get those?
Yeah, well, if I can just talk about a couple of injuries in particular. First of all, catastrophic injuries are fortunately really quite rare, and that's something we may go into during the symposium. The management is clearly quite critical when they do happen, but fortunately they're rare. Much more common injuries are the overuse injuries, particularly involving knees and shoulders and the ankles. But I suppose one of the big challenges is head injury, and this is a significant aspect which has been recognised in many sports, and ice hockey has been one of those sports which has been at the frontier of recognition of concussion. And things are generally well understood at the top level, but things become a little bit more challenging when you're dealing with younger, developing athletes who may be unfamiliar with having such medical support around. And it's knowing how to explain to the athletes themselves, the coaches, and at times the parents, the importance of correct head injury and indeed concussion management. And this is one of the things I'll talk about at the forthcoming symposium in the summer. It's really something which can make a big difference to an athlete's overall career.
Matt, are we seeing? I know one of the topics that Mike will be talking about is kind of injury prevention as well. I know obviously your playing career was ended with an injury. Are you seeing that like equipment as well is also developing to help prevent these injuries and kind of supporting more around the knee, for example, and protecting that from shots, but again with the helmets as well to try and help prevent concussions as much as possible?
Yeah, I think the equipment that the manufacturers, there's far more consideration now for player safety, and that's paramount really. I think when I was younger and I got injured, I got hit in the back of the calf, which created that blood clot and a DVT, and it really well it finished me off playing, because obviously still on warfarin and tablets for life really. And fortunately I was able to step into the coaching. But if I remember rightly, the selection of kit in those days, there was like one or two pairs of leg pads, and the leg pads didn't go right the way around the back of my calf area, and that was the area I got hit in. So I think now you see the development in the sport and in the equipment, in particular the helmets, which Mike spoke about with regards to the concussions. And and I think it's really interesting what Mike was saying is the parents are the key as well, because ultimately they're making the decisions a lot of the time on behalf of the child. And for me, it's so easy for the parents to say, "Oh, you'll be all right. Just crack on. You'll be fine. Just have an hour, or miss training this week. You'll be okay to play next week in the game." But like Mike says, that's long-term injuries and can create a lot more problems later on in life.
Yeah, and the injury prevention as well, Michael, because it's well documented in the news about waiting lists for operations if they're needed or anything like that, and the phenomenal cost if you decide to go down the private route of it. So to try and prevent that kind of helps everybody really, because it would reduce the waiting lists if less people needed it, and then those that do can get treated more quickly and aren't out as long.
Yeah, I think one of the things we can influence here is the optimization of performance and trying to prevent injury. And that's something we really need to concentrate on. And that was one of the key points as part of the symposium.
Now, it's certainly going to be a fascinating symposium listening to you, Michael. Matt, if people haven't already registered for the symposium, where do they go about doing that?
Yeah, it's www.mattbradburysports.com. That's the website. We'll take you straight through to the symposium pages. We've obviously got all of the social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook and TikTok. I'm not going to ask the question to Dr. Mike because I know what the answer will be, so I'm not even going to ask him the question.
We've been asking all the guests, Michael, if they're on TikTok. So Matt's Matt's skipped that one out on there. But yeah, Michael, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It sounds like it's going to be a fascinating discussion with you on Saturday morning, the 13th of July, and we look forward to seeing you then.
Thanks very much. It's been great to join you today. Have a good day.